One of the things I really love about your book, and I never really sort of understood it until you were able to illustrate it when I done that course for you. You talked about the Stockdale paradox. Just wondering if you could maybe have a little bit of chat about that and how that can be done in a workplace.
So I love it too. By the way, how's this for beyond the course of duty? Steve actually sat through the full 2 days of my program.
Yeah.
Didn't leave the room once, just sat through the whole thing. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Stockdale paradox. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. Most of you are aware of it. It came from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And it was based on an interview Collins did with Admiral James Stockdale. Now, if you don't know the story, Admiral James Stockdale, a leader's leader, went on to lecture in leadership at Harvard, but he was in what became known as the Hanoi Hilton during the Vietnam War, led his men, and they were all men, in particular ways. And it was noted that his men, after the war, when they all got back to the States, did better than just about any other team. But he was being interviewed by Jim Collins, and he asked the question, I know your men did better than others, but not all of them made it. What was the difference? Who didn't make it? Now, Stockdale thought for a moment, and he said, actually, that's easy. The ones that didn't make it, they were the optimists. Now, this is counterintuitive, because what we know is, generally speaking in life, optimists do better than pessimists. Not always, by the way. Don't ever do a risk assessment as an optimist, eh? Yeah, she'll be right. She'll be right. Sometimes it pays to be a pessimist. He said, no, they were the unrealistic optimists. They'd be saying stuff like, we'll be out by Christmas. Christmas came and went. We'll be out by Easter. That's come and gone. And he said, before you knew it, it was Christmas again. They died of a broken heart. He said, the rest of us, because it got really tough, we would be focused sometimes minute by minute on, well, how do we get through the next torture? How do we actually find additional protein? Because they're all starving and so forth. So after that interview, Collins sort of put it together as what he called the Stockdale paradox. Now, it's a paradox because it's two seemingly opposite ideas we hold in our mind at the same time. The paradox is this. On the one hand, we must acknowledge the most brutal facts of our current reality, whatever they may be. We don't have to like them, but we have to acknowledge them. And at the same time, we keep a sureness of success that we will prevail in the end. Now, all he meant by that was, we will put all our focus on just what we can control and what we can influence. Anything we have no control, no influence over, we let that go and put all our focus back there. Now, after Collins put that out in his book, many organisations started actually using it as a leadership tool to bring their people in. We do it once a month in our company. I recommend to other companies, they do it on regular intervals. It should never be a one-off thing. And it's brilliant because it teaches our teams a few things. Number one, it's safe to share bad news. That's essentially psychological safety. The team learn that their voice is important. That's going to build trust too. But they also have a say in the solutions. In other words, we now voice the brutal facts. As a leader, by the way, my role is not to argue with them, not to get defensive, because otherwise your brutal facts dry up really quickly. I just document them. After we've got them there, we move to, right, with these brutal facts, what can we control? What can we influence? We have that discussion, that becomes an action plan. So just an example. You remember COVID, right?
No.
No. When COVID hit, our phones just lit up, and we had all of our clients, former and current, all their people are at home, there's all lockdowns, and they're phoning up saying, what do we do? And I'm thinking, I don't fucking know. I've never had this before. I don't even know what to do with my team. But what I had done with my team was Stockdale Paradox. And in other words, almost jokingly, I said, so guys, COVID's just hit, borders are shut, we can't get on any planes, we've just lost 7 months of work overnight. Any brutal facts? And yeah, of course. Then we go straight into, all right, let's vote. What can we control? What can we influence? And that become our action plan. But all these other companies phoning us up, what do we do? I said, have you asked your teams? Again, there's a chapter in the book called Your Teams Have the Answers, Do You Have the Questions? And using the Stockdale paradox, bring them in. All right, we're working from home. There's all these challenges, brutal facts, if you will. Let's list them, go through them. And then you follow, what can we control? What can we influence? Do that once a month. Your team will learn it's absolutely safe to share bad news. They're part of the solution. There's ownership, there's responsibility, builds trust galore. So it's just a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
There is a chapter on it in the book that can help you blow by blow go through it, because there are some pitfalls, by the way. Beware. For example, you bring your team in and you say, right team, what are your brutal facts? 15 minutes later, they just sat there. What's going on? Is that there's no brutal facts? What's going on? What do you reckon?
I don't trust you.
They don't trust me.
Yeah.
They're frightened to death if they even share the bad news, something bad's going to happen. So you might have to put a bit of work in up front. Just let them know we're asking for a reason. The alternative, of course, is you might have to time limit it because there's so many brutal facts you cannot possibly manage them.
Yeah.
And so it should never be personal attacks, never a whinge fest. You actually set some ground rules around that, all named in the book. But it's a brilliant technique.
No, good on you. And I think you might